Now in today's video I have a realistic, as in Tandy, or at least in Australia, Radio Shack. We've got the RS thing there in America, I guess, and elsewhere. Rather beaten up Modulette 939. So I think this was a 70s unit. Lovely wood, and what have we got here? Tandy 28. Oh, is that the actual price? $289.95? Could be. Be interesting. It's an early Tandy price label. Does look a bit like one though. And the model number is 14-907A, which is probably the catalogue number as well. I'll see if I can find it. I've probably got this. Probably got a Tandy catalogue that would date to this era, so I can find out the exact date. It's got a crack in the front, a bit of the knob missing, and I think that's bent maybe, or on an angle. And the cassette player doesn't look too healthy. Record switch has got a piece hanging off it. Rewind's bent. Fast forwards maybe bent, doesn't come back up. So I don't hold out a lot of hope for this. But the only thing that's kind of interesting about it is it's got, it's broken as well by the look of it, or loose. Yeah, I think a pin's broken off. It's got one of those sort of sloping cassette mechanisms in there, which you don't see in many things. And just the fact it's a Tandy, I sort of, remember Tandy back in the day and always kind of liked their stuff, though most of it was overpriced until it was on special. If you waited till it was on special, it was about the right price. But some of their stuff was just rebranded. Like this would probably be made in Japan or somewhere. And sometimes you could buy the same stuff elsewhere with maybe a slightly different front for, substantially less. As of the date of manufacture, sub-regulations, blah, blah, blah. I don't see anything. HPT OK, so it looks like a quality control maybe. Whistle cut, I wonder if that's like a beat cancel switch. Oh, here it is, custom manufactured in Japan for Tandy Corp, which was often the case, so at least they were pretty good quality if it's Japanese made. Even these older ones are reasonable, they weren't too bad. So the cord's been cut off this, so we'll plug it in. Actually, I guess before I put it into the speakers, I better check for DC on the output as I normally do, because we have no idea what's wrong with this. I doubt it's got a particularly amazing, tape's making noise, amazing amp in it. It's lighting up. It's getting noisier, probably because I'm tipping it up. So I think we're in, maybe stuck in fast forward or something. You can lift the fast forward back up. I'll bend that rewind reasonably straight. More likely in that case then that the belt's completely off the motor. Let's just check the output before I worry about, well, they wouldn't expect the motor to run without one of the switches being pressed is a point. Not one of these old ones. Ooh, we do have a bit of voltage there. I just thought that might just be capacitively coupled. Or maybe not. That channel's quite low. That's quite high. I might put a even bigger load on that, like a 100 ohm resistor, or 120 ohm we got here. And I'll hold that with my multimeter probes, because see what's going on. Oh, I'm going to short it out myself if I'm not careful. That's gone down to 0, no problem. Yeah, we've discharged it. So that might be alright, it's just a capacitor charge probably. If you put an 8 ohm load on there, dummy load, you do risk actually popping a fuse or blowing the stage even more. I can hear a bit of hum. Volume's up a bit high, a bit of scratchiness, balance, tones at minimum. Surely we've got radio. Sounds like we've got something. That's AM.
Get some up-to-date statistics pretty soon.
Picks up pretty well.
Now, politicians...
Many sort of national security legislative sorts of topics, it's the sort of weeds where the kind of...
So it looks like the radio's working as you'd expect. See, I've got a stereo light on the FM, even though it's not picking up the greatest, because I don't think it's got much of an antenna, but must have a decent... Oh yeah, there's the FM antenna connections. I'll probably get it. I made it worse. The stereo light comes on even when it's not in stereo mode. Interesting. Got a phono input and of course tape, which is built in. A couple of nice light up meters there. Headphone and microphone inputs. So these weren't, the greatest units on earth, probably only a 5 watt amp or something in it, but they did the job. If you just wanted a basic sort of home system and you weren't, really in the market for a super hi-fi system, I think this should slide out of the case, but maybe I should take the back off first, but I don't have to take all these screws off, but usually you find this whole wooden cabinet will slide off and there'll be a metal chassis underneath. I did look at a few of these back in the day because you'd find these things getting chucked out and stuff, and it was good stuff to play around with when you're learning a bit about electronics. Often they had the turntable built on and that'd be faulty or something and broken by the kids or something, and people would chuck them out. But yeah, they were quite a common unit and not overly expensive, not real cheap either back in the day, but by the 80s they were getting old enough and beaten up enough that people were starting to get rid of them, and there really was very little market for these things. My first test amplifier was actually a Hanamex one that I cut down. I think it originally had a turntable on it, and I don't think a tape deck worked in it, but I just used the amp out of it and just cut the case down so it was a lot narrower. It wasn't as wide as this one. And I found some ETI, I think it was like the ETI 5000, the 20 LED per channel, I think it was, LED level meter. Pretty sure it was the big one, and yes, I cut the radio dial, the back of that out or something, put that in there. It looked quite impressive for the day, but it just made a good little test amplifier in the shed. So you could always cut these sort of things down and use them as amplifiers and stuff. I've probably got to take the back off, or it might slide off with the back still attached. Oh, we've got a date on the motor, I think, too, which is good. But oh yeah, the chassis is sort of coming with it. But I think I should have disconnected everything first. Probably got to take my dodgy mains lead off where they've cut the lead off it, because technically not safe for just being sold as is, because it was just a parts thing. Okay, so you just get this whole piece off. Sometimes there's a circuit in there. Printed in Japan. Wow, that's, you can barely read it, it's so small, but cool. So if we take the back off, we've got a schematic. I guess I should get a scan of that. It's got some labels here. DGIGH 987, that's probably the same as on the back. And the important thing is, what's the date on the motor? 28th of July 77. Another Matsushita, I think. And that's an older style motor. It looks like the belt's still on there though. It doesn't do an awful lot though, mind you. That's very slippery belt. Some big old potentiometers. They almost look like Matsushita stuff as well, but I don't think they are. Very similar looking. Oh, we've got one of these connectors. Not quite a valve style connector, but they're kind of similar. Well, I guess some of the mini valves. Oh, this one is like a mini valve, so it's got Japan on it. They're always an interesting thing. Looks like that plugs across to the tape mech. Don't know if we've got any sort of interesting tape mech here. What's it got on that board? I can't read that symbol. Some weird little symbol. And then that little, what's that RU thing? Backwards R or something. That used to be on quite a few things. That should have a lamp on it as well by the look of it. It's got a code number on the end here. Whether that's part of the tape mech. This whole tape unit might have been sold as a unit that they've built into it, or they've added their own circuit board. Always interesting to look at some of the stuff in these things. Yeah, it's got AN chips in the main board. It does look an awful lot like a Matsushita in many ways, but whether it is the writing on the pots, but they haven't put a, well, they've got an M on them, not a brando as such. And the fact it's got AN ICs in it. What about the transistors? Anything on those? That's Matsushita by the look of it. It's got the little triangle symbol. So at least used plenty of parts out of Matsushita stuff. Whether they would have made it for Tandy, I don't know. It's got this little symbol, looks like 3 arrows pointing up, and then the tail of 2 of them curve back around in a sort of circle. That's probably the company that made it. Oh, here's our outputs. I don't know if it'd even be 5 watts. Look at that TO92s on a heatsink. So, you know, pretty gutless really, but for most people's use, that was loud enough. Just for everyday use. You'd be surprised how many people just had something like that. Nichicon capacitors. And you can see the size of the power transformer. It's, you know, not much bigger than one you'd get just in a cassette player or something. Little shoebox cassette player, so nothing special. I was going to try and hit, I don't know if I need to hit play, because this actually runs without pressing any buttons. There must be a button pressed in that tape deck, I think. See what is going on, but I reckon that motor's just running and the belt's slipping against it by the sound of things, but you never know. Could be the capstan's also running. Let's have a look and see. Oh, it is running. Like, you can see how slow that was to take off. There was a big bulge in the belt there when I first applied power, and a lot of slipping, but it's going. There's the pause mechanism. Needs new grease on it. Is that the pause button? Oh, there it is. That still works. So that's running. Here's there's some switches. I wonder what they do. You'd think that was part of the play. Ooh, we've got an idler engaged. That's stopped the capstan running. That's one thing I don't think I actually tried the functions after I bent the switches straight again, or the buttons straight again. No fast forward, but it does stop. No rewind, does stop. Oh, play does actually run and stops immediately, but the take-up reel is running. Oh no, now it's locking down. Has it got a tension type little tension sensor? I think it does. And we won't be able to record without pressing the thing in there, the record protect tab thing. And yeah, I was going to have a quick look. There's I'll say an axial or fuse type lamp under here. But it must have been a short period where they ran those. Here, there it is, axial lamp. Guess I'll better find out what voltage is on that, because I might as well replace that if I can at least get this thing somewhat running. Shame it's got a crack in the front, because this would have been alright just for as a display piece, just to have there lit up. Let's see if it's AC or DC on the lamp. Probably AC in most of these. Probably 8 volts or something. Yeah, it's saying 5 volts. So that's a bit low, especially with a blown lamp. Where's these other lamps? Oh, that's where I saw a big bunch of wires coming through. Looks like across to the transformer here. Oops. That stopped the capstan in its tracks. What have we got here? What a mess. It looks very dodgy, like it was almost shorting on the wire next to it. Oh, but it probably is. That probably is the winding for the lamps, is it? 5 volts. What on earth is going on there? Yeah, we've got 5.3 volt onto the lamps. Okay, have a quick look at the circuit. Need a small screwdriver to get that back off. If it's even readable, I might have to scan that in and blow it up and then print it out again, I think, to make any sense of it. Yeah, it'd be odd if that is the sales tag, because they wouldn't normally have it unless this was a display stock or something. Even then you think they'd have the box, or maybe the purchaser decided to stick it on the back. Oh, you need a magnifying glass just about, but it is impressive that they even put that much in. There's our transformer. Pilot lamp, pilot lamp, pilot lamp. Doesn't actually say cassette lamp, all in parallel. That's ground, doesn't say anything about voltage. There should be 9.3 volts coming out of a regulator with 21 volts in through R67. I wonder if I can find that. And we have 19.8, so that seems a bit low because it says 21 on the circuit, and 8.9, that should be the 9 volts, so that should be 21 volts. Also, this transformers, or actually that could be here. I think my mains voltage is a bit low. That might be the issue. Yeah, 220 volts, that's probably the problem. Let's try again. So let's see, that's earth. I think the mains voltage here is a little bit low, but there we are, roughly 21 volts. That might be the issue, the mains here I think, so we should be back up. Was that our lamps? Yeah, it looks like it goes over to the other side there. I think this here was the lamps. Yeah, it's barely changed, still 5.3 volts. Oh well. Probably a good thing, I guess. It'll make the lamps last a bit longer. Now the next issue is, I wonder if it's on the circuit. How does the motor get switched? E-head. What is that big connector for? It is for 9-pin plug. That's just to plug the cassette player, and there's the motor. Good thing I looked at that because I never would have spotted it. Switch 605. Should switch about 14 volts to the motor. But yeah, there should be a switch to switch the motor on and off, which I would have thought they don't normally run all the time. Problem is, which switch is it? I guess it should be connected to the motor. One side goes to the circuit board, then we've got a yellow wire which comes up. One's for the lamp. Oh, here we go. Is that a switch? I reckon that will be our switch, but what sets? Oh, it's actually, I know what it is. The deck's actually in place, of course. Been an abnormal mechanism in this thing. I didn't realise that. Of course, the deck's sitting down. That would be why the motor's running. Well, I lie. It still runs because the ejector wouldn't lift it up. Okay, no need to carry on about it. Well, how does the eject must come? Does it come more than that? Is that it? What do you do? Put your hand up and then slide the tape out? Shush. Well, there is a switch there, it seems. Probably has something to do with that deck dropping. But it still hasn't switched off, so I don't know. I was hoping not to pull this thing to bits too much. I would like to just put a new belt in it, clean the idler and hope it works. But I doubt it's that simple. All the grease looks really dry. That motor sounds really dry as well, unless it's squealing on the belt. But it may well need the bearings looping or something. But let's get rid of that belt. Don't tell me it's stuck. Who's a moron who designed it like that? Brilliant. Looks like a nice simple one, but you can't get it off that bracket. Yeah, rotten. There's a couple other belts there too. Well, that's not very fair, is it? Looks like we can take the board off the back here. Then what happens? I think they're going to make me pull the whole thing to bits, unless, no, there's no way I can get around that piece, I don't think. I'll soon find out, I guess. Might as well get this board out of the way if we can. Now let's join to this bit of chassis. So I may be wasting my time touching that. But that voltage regulator and stuff on that board, that's got joints that are very close to dry. I don't know if this cassette player is much better. It almost looks like someone's resoldered the record playback switch in it. Yeah, the rest of it's okay, but it's sort of on the verge of looking like it's going to become bad solder joints. Which you can't complain after it's been around that many years, I guess. Should I take that off there? I don't know. It'll be in the way one way or another. I guess it'd be interesting to have a quick look at this mech. But of course the wiring's not going to allow us to do much anyway. Or do I take the motor? Taking the motor off ain't going to help, is it? It's this piece of metal. Whoop. So I think you gotta take the front. Really? Gotta take the front panel off the plastic bit, I think, to get. That's got to be the worst design for belt change in history. But I'm pretty sure that's what they've done. I could be wrong. Oh, maybe that other plastic bit stays on there. Now you may not have to, but there's a couple of screws going through into the chassis. Yeah, no, I think you've got to remove the front. Oh, it's like a half chassis, maybe just half the front has to be removed as such. I don't know if that goes into the front, that screw, or is it just holding that metal light on? I think it's just holding the metal light on. That's alright then. So don't do the middle ones, I don't think. That one will have to come out. They never were much fun to work on, most of these units. They weren't really made to be easily serviced, and they probably didn't really know what they were doing back then. Anyway, yeah, that's coming loose. Let's take that bracket out. A little bit of chassis. Thankfully it looks like all the screws are the same. Now that's actually tied onto a cable tie anyway. So now the meters are kind of in the way of the wiring for them. What are they? Oh, they're glued on. Well, it ain't much fun, this thing. So I think I've got to unsolder the meters, or at least partially. I can't get the buttons back through the front, and they put glue. There they go. They put glue all over the wiring to the meters. I'll scrape that off a bit because that's not going to do me soldering tip much good, is it? Maybe I should just. No, I can't really even just cut them off, can I? They've glued the meters to the front. One wire just links between them, so we can leave. Oh no! Now I've bent one of the meter pins over when the chassis went back in, which is not good because you don't want to break a meter, even though they're not very good quality ones. And it's impressive it's even got meters on it, really. I have to see if I can burn all this glue off, I guess. Problem is getting some heat in to actually do it when all the solder's covered in glue. I think it's working. It's probably going to smell awful, but yeah, it's coming off. God, look at that. What is that? What were they thinking? There goes the glue. God, shot across the bench somewhere. So I've got a white wire down that end, blue to blue. So I guess, yeah, one's white, one's red for the that's the usual colour for left and right. I'm not sure which is which, but I always make red for right because it's got an R in it. Go away, glue. Oh no, and then we've got capacitors. I'm going to take a screw off near the power switch because we've got two ceramic caps. On a little terminal, thankfully. A little eyelet thing we can get out. Come on, screw. Well, it's far from perfect, and it's quite rusty, and all those grommets and the glue on them have gone all weird and rusted the metal, I think. So that's fairly dodgy. But now we can see the mech. Yeah, there's the switch. So there's a plate that hasn't slid across here by the look of it. Oh god, the end of the mech looks like something's bent and... dearie me. And that bit of record switch has fallen off. Or record knob thing. Yeah, so there's a top slide plate that doesn't seem to come across, but it seems to be hanging over the end of the mech here. So how does that... Okay, so I found out a few things with this mech, why it isn't really working. But we're in play mode, and when you're in play it actually has this top slide plate, there's two of them. And this top one pushes a little piece of metal out of the way, so that actually disables the eject from operating. We press stop, and that is meant to slide back. There's a switch here, that opens, that's meant to make the motor stop. Now we can press, this lever's now across where we can actually contact it, and that lifts the mech up. So the reason the motor stays running and the eject doesn't do anything is the same reason. It's this plate sticking. It should come back. I don't know if that's just grease or what it probably is. For a minute I thought that was broken, but that piece actually slides sideways. What a weird design that is. There's another idler there, another idler there. Probably rubber bits on those as well, is there? Actually, I think we're missing an idler on the play. Or does that other one fit in? God, it's a weird setup if the other idler actually goes into a slot in the reel, but that's kind of what it looks like it does. Am I in play mode? Oh, that's play mode. Oh, that's right, play doesn't like to stay in place. Is that really how that's designed? Wow, there's so many different designs of these things. That little idler there goes into a slot in the plastic reel. Well, look at it. I'm sure there should be a tyre on there, but maybe that's how it's designed. There's another little idler just here. It does have a tension-based auto stop by the look of it. Is that going to release it? Oh, not at the moment. Maybe you've got to have the motor running. Pause. I think that idle's got splits in it too. That one on the reel there. Oh yeah, that's... Don't know if that'll show up, but that's got a couple of splits in the front there. Or some sort of lines on it. Where'd they go? There's one. Yeah, that looks like a split. That was the death of a lot of these. You just couldn't get the bits for them. There's another one that looks like a split, but it's still soft and pliable, so it may be resurrectable just for the sake of it. But a rather interesting mechanism. For some reason that just does not want to slide. I don't know if I really want to pull it apart that much, but get everything out of the way. I can't really see what that... Or what, is there a spring or something, or is that thing meant to pull it back? It only has this little spring here, which I think is more to do with... No, it's here to bring the mech itself, but the eject bit back, not to slide this bit across. Can't see any sign of grease. There might have been a bit of grease down there. It's just tight against the other white bit of plastic, I think. But you would think there'd be something more than just that springing it back, but I guess if it's loose enough. Yeah, have we got lost a spring somewhere? There's another issue. Because it should be on the top side here somewhere, I would think. Wires and stuff don't seem to be in the way. There's another spring, that's for the cassette. The play mode. Yeah, spring there. Bit hidden under those wires a bit. That one's just for the eject thing, I think, but it may help bring this bit back. Doesn't seem like enough really, but I can't see anything else that pulls it on this, unless I'm missing something. So yeah, that idler's probably on its way. That is the weirdest. Oh, we've got a label on here. It's not a tension or something, is it? What is that? I always like to see these days if there's a label on the cassette mech, but it's hidden down under this plastic bit. But that looks like that lifts off, does it? Guess we might as well have a look while we're in here. Oh yeah, there's nothing holding it on besides a couple of screws. Yeah, it doesn't really expose anything that I want to see. What does it? Just says serial number, I think. BGH and serial number 19413. BGH. So no idea who made this mech. Could have been anyone. Oh, what's that there? Oh, that's the record bits. That's what the spring's for there. I'm just looking for springs that might operate this mechanism, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm probably just going to have to stick some grease on this thing and hope for the best. I can't really take it out easily. Oh, I forgot rid of that piece on the switch. Oh, you got to take. Oh, how does the button assembly come off? That mightn't. Oh, the screws underneath it. Oh, I really don't want to get that involved, but I still haven't worked out how to actually get the the motor out of the belt off it. Oh, the screw's going in through the side. Oh, this is pretty horrible. Oh, can I just take those? I've still got to get the. Yeah, I've got to get rid of this bracket. This is going to be one of these jobs that I was going to do a quick resurrection on, and then it's going to end up taking all day. But while I'm in the mood for a few cassette players, I guess we might as well try and fix a few of the horrible things, including this sort of 70s stuff that, yeah, was never. That was the other reason a lot of these got chucked out. It's just a lot of work to work on them. Okay, let's get that out of there. Now I've got our metery bits out of the way. I can now see the bracket for the motor. I think we're going to have to take all this bit off anyway. But I don't know if I have to lift the camera up really, but there are screws coming through. You can see the ends of them coming up here, and same at the other end. That should take this button assembly off, I think. Can't really move the mech into a position this close to see it from underneath, but let's just take them out and see what happens. Can always show it later, I guess. Some springs underneath. I wonder if they got anything to do with it. Oh, we have a spring looking rather loose here. What is? Oh, that could be a. Oh, I do have a spring rather loose here. Oh, I've actually got a broken piece here too. Oh no. Okay, now we've got trouble. I was going to say there must be something else that does this, I think. Well, let's get those buttons out of the way anyway, and then I'll see if I can even get the camera on this thing. I might have to. Well, I can't disconnect anything, I don't think. Oh well, I found they've broken something by the look of it, but that gets the button assembly off. So they're just a bunch of levers. I could straighten them up a bit, I guess. And here's the mech without the buttons. Now, are there any broken bits? They're those little bits that stick up, so they're all intact, we know that. There's a bit of a dead something in there. That's our white lever. But like I say, there should surely be something, but would that be related to the white piece there? I know that's the other lever, I think. And that all seems fine. Have we broken a piece completely off this maybe? don't see a hole for a piece to go through, so that's something. I can see more grease down here that probably needs replacing. So that's something else. So it should have been grease there, but yes, sure there should be something pushing on this. Should have been a bit of grease there by the look of it, but even is that enough to... These things don't just have a habit of coming back on their own. But I can't, because these motor wires and some of these other wires, I might be able to flip it. I have to flip the whole mechanism over. The whole chassis, I think. God, this is going to end up one big tangle with wires breaking off and God knows what if I'm not careful. I can't really fit it on my bench. But this is the trouble here. There's this spring here I noticed was kind of sitting about there floating around, but this plastic bit's broken. So there's this spring I noticed here was kind of sitting in an odd spot, and then there's this plastic bit here is actually snapped. And I think that's the lower slide bar. But what did that go around? Was that pin there? Is it something to do with the idler? It doesn't. That seems to be the same height, which would suggest it didn't go around that pin, but what on earth? I guess half of that spring should probably be around that bit, like so. You can see that's got the little dog leg in it to go there. So what does this other bit press on? I mean, I don't know what position this thing is meant to be. Well, kind of spun around too far, surely. You'd think that'd be around some sort of pin thing like that or something, but it doesn't reach that one. I mean, could this I mean, it wouldn't press on one of these buttons or something, would it? And I've still got the issue of, you know, which one's stop? I think that's stop eject, isn't it? That down that end. Doesn't seem to stop it. Oh, that's pause here, so I think it was the one next to it. And it's not undoing it. So that must have, oh, where's that button assembly I took off? Is that part of it? That's on the other side though. That went up above. Well, it still doesn't mean, yeah, does one of the buttons stick through there and, oh, go away, light. Does that button that should come through? Yeah, it's not high enough. That doesn't reach up to there. So I've got no idea what I'm looking at here. And I've got to take this whole bracket off, I think, to get that belt. And now my stop eject doesn't want to work. Oh, can we press one of these other buttons? Let's play. Oh, that's just jammed, I think. It was, the mech was probably trying to release it, but it wouldn't come. So I'm still none the wiser. Like, does that come right around there somewhere? Is this spring? I mean, the spring still has nothing there. Right up. Did this spring go right around onto there, and then that piece? See, it could be something like that where it could have some tension. But if that's got tension, that'll be springing back. I mean, is that just meant to block that or something? Does the piece that's busted off matter? I think it's busted off. I mean, maybe it isn't broken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's broken. And this is where these things get difficult, because there's no way knowing without another mechanism to look at what you're actually looking at. So you can usually work it out, but let's see if that dog leg goes there, and if I try and bend that around that way, then it's just going to spin the other way, isn't it? So if anything, this needs to push it that way. And the other question is, does this fit anywhere else? That thing is pushed by a button, pushes on that thing down. I mean, could this have gone up in the ear or something? Well, I guess no reason why not, maybe. Oh, mate, oh, did it go in between? It wouldn't go in between those, would it? I'm not really sure on this one. I mean, you'd have to assume that since if it hasn't been apart, that it was sitting, or is that what's broken off? Was there a piece? Oh, that might make sense. Was it part of the same thing that broke off? And that's why it broke, because this spring has made it go twang. So if it was sprung to itself, what does it do? I mean, that's almost hitting the capstan with the belt on there. It probably would just about hit the capstan. So that doesn't seem very good, unless that, well, I don't think anything's jumped out of where it was, but it could have gone in like that or something. Well, it's not really in the way there, so no idea. But you'd have to assume there's no way that could have jumped out on its own, but I have no idea what it actually does. And I don't think it has anything to do with that slidey plate. Oh, there's nothing broken off up there, is that? There's a bit of a hole there, but no, I don't think it's got anything to do with it. I was kind of expecting to find something like this little pin for the other slide plate, and this is just an idler, I think, so this is just got to come into place by being pushed into the capstan. No idea what we've got here. None at all. But I wouldn't think that'd get in so close. I mean, it could that, oh, could that be something to do with the pores or something silly? I mean, some of these machines, of course, disconnect the idler in pause. In that mode it pushes the idler on, not takes it off. Oh, but if pause let go, is that play mode? No, you can't force it. I mean, you think it could force it up or something, but it doesn't want to move. That is not playing the disconnection game once it's in place, I don't think so. I don't think pause is the thing, because nothing's going to move that thing. Unless, no, that just pulls it in tighter, that pushes it in tighter. It's basically stuck to the capstan, so I'm going to have to let go of that theory, because I was just thinking maybe it came across here somewhere and the pause had something pushing on it. No, that's an unknown bit of mechanism, that. So unless I could find something with a similar mech, and this is one of those slanty on a side kind of mechs that sits on a funny angle, and they're rare as. And I still got this damn belt in the way, so I can probably put those buttons back, I guess. Can I bend them a bit straighter? I don't know if it makes any difference having them off or not. They are bendy, horrible condition. At least I can see what I'm doing a bit better, so makes me feel a bit more confident to bend them around a bit. Yeah, that sort of fixed it. I'll put the buttons back on, but I can't see that they had anything to do with... And that springs up awfully high. I can only think that a part of... And it's loose. It's not like it's really well held in there. I can't see that it could have escaped. I mean, it could have spun round from over about as far as there, so that was the other option, wasn't it? If it... But then this white piece, there's no way that can spin. So you have to assume that white piece is in the right place, unless someone fiddled with it. No idea. Now, can I change this? I think I can change the belt with those back in place, if I can find the screws for them, now that I've moved everything upside down. But yeah, I thought this wouldn't be the ideal project, but it was cheap, and I thought, why not have a look at one of those strange cassette mechanisms. It may be possible still to resurrect most of it with a new belt. And if I can get that slide plate to slide back, this thing would actually be mostly working, because the motor would turn off, the ejector would work. I mean, who knows what that motor doesn't sound like it's in the best condition, what it will sound like. But and the worst thing is, if I put a new belt in this and the motor's shot, you'd have to pull it all apart again, or do you? No, maybe not. Now of course it's only the belt that's trapped. You can just slip that off the motor, and it looks like you can get access to the motor screws, so that's not so bad. Kind of ironic that you can change the motor easier than the belt, but that's what they did sometimes. You could understand if the motor was hard to change and the belt easy, but not the other way. But even the Japanese made difficult things at times, and they were usually the ones that were pretty good at not making them awful like the Europeans or something. Belt's there. There's definitely a screw under there. That has to come out. That's a little one. And I assume all these four probably have to come to get this bracket out. But these 70s things were kind of like this. I know from playing around with them as a kid that I don't think I ever sort of repaired any seriously for anyone. I don't think most people ever bought them in for repair anyway. Oh, we've got a bracket coming loose, so you're telling me that's just a loose... But I know these 70 things were weird, so they did a lot of difficult to work on things. So I don't think we actually have to take those two screws out. I'll find out now. I think that piece should come with it. We might find out that we do, but this should be loose, yeah. So two metal threads and one. Don't tell me it's still held on. There's another screw. Ah, oh, really? That's part of it. Another screw through that hole. Little tiny one. So all sorts of different screws. This definitely wasn't their glory days, but I guess at least they hadn't worked out how to cheapen everything down too much at that stage. But there is something to be said for cheapening things down here. That bracket is a little bit in the way, because cheap usually means simple. Oh yeah, that's noisy. Oh god, squealy. Definitely wasn't the belt slipping making that noise, so I might see if I can get some... Has that got a grub screw in it? It has a tiny little grub screw. And can I get a screwdriver into it? It's the next problem, even if I can get one that small. I'll try my little... That might just do it, but I might need a precision watch type screwdriver for that little thing. Yeah, that's a... Oh, this just... Oh, I've got it. Is it going to come off though? I don't want to undo that grub screw too much, because if that drops off you'll never find it again probably. I think that's lifted. Oh no, it hasn't lifted. Doesn't, not visibly anyway. That screwdriver's a bit too wide for this job. It's jamming. Yeah, that's coming loose I think. But the pulley isn't. Just the one of them. We've got green lacquer. Yeah. Is that going to move? I don't think that's going to break free. Jeez, that is tight. Okay, I think we'll just screw that back up and forget about that. I mean, that's going to be a problem if you ever have to change it, but I guess you don't care about breaking the motor. If you actually want to put a new motor in there, you'll just force that up with whatever, big pair of side cutters or something, and just break it if you have to, because you're not going to be caring about that. Can I get the oil right down in there? Oh, yeah I can. Just don't want to get it all over the pulley. Well, that's already better. I'll try and wipe some of that back off I think. Got to give the pulley a clean anyway. Yeah, there's a bit escaping I think on the other side there. We don't want that spraying around the place. Well, that's pretty good. At least that motor has some hope of being half decent. I wouldn't count on it sounding awesome, but it'd be nice if we can get some sound out of this thing just to have a listen to it. At least I know I can force the mechanism if I need to get some sound out of it, but it would be nice if we can get that slide plate doing its own thing. And now I've got cotton bud all over the grub screw. Nice little cotton bud catcher that is. Oh god, it's everywhere. And do the capstan. Was it that bit? I think it's that bit it went on. No, it must be the upper bit. Oh, the lower bits. I can see something's been running on it, but of course it's that idler wheel there. So we'll give that a clean too while we're at it. A bit of dust on it. At least the tyre looks good on that one. But I won't look too close because it may start revealing cracks. So we don't know what that is. I mean, I could almost take that out and get rid of it, but I don't think it's causing any issues there. Bit of dust under there. Quite a bit of dust under there. And I need to belt that length. Oh, what's that one? That should fit inside. Yep, so that's larger as the old belt. This one fits inside. I think we're cool. I reckon it's stretched a bit, that one, so in the dumpster it goes. Let's just put that on and feel it, but that should be fine, I think. Yeah, that's could even be a little tighter in a way, but I think that's about right. Does it slip? No, that's what you want. Not too much tension pulling on that motor pulley. Oh, another win for the eBay belt kits. And we can put this, if I can remember which way it went. I'll get that bracket underneath somewhere. Oh, I can see the screws. That's got to go over the belt. Yeah, what a fun little design you are. And we've got a screw near the motor. It's probably would be a good place to start if I could get it in the hole. I can see the hole, there it is. Won't tighten that right up yet. And one through the hole. So it really is just a standard deck, isn't it? Just, I guess that's what all these complicated brackets are. They're just a mount of standard deck. The buttons have been angled weirdly though. Admittedly they had to change that, but it's probably just a standard deck. And it does have, well, that bracket's just a separate one. Standard mechanism. Yeah, this whole deck would be a standard sort of horizontal mechanism, and they've added these weird brackets to the end, plus they've made these buttons, obviously cut them so that instead of just pointing flat out, they point up a bit. So there's nothing special about this mech, it's just looks a bit different, and I think it probably is a fairly impractical way of loading things, but you can make the unit less height, even though a cassette player would have just about fitted on the front of this thing with the buttons. It's about the only advantage it has. It's front load, but it's not as high. I can't see why else you would bother with this type of design, other than novelty, I guess. And oh, that bit goes on the top, so I'm going to have to flip everything back over again, I think. Oh yeah, that I can now see this idler is very cracked. I might give it a clean anyway. It's cracked badly. But surprising how well, as long as they hang together, it's surprising how well they work, but the play is definitely going to be iffy in this thing. I'm waiting on another idler kit off eBay, which might have something to fit, but yeah, nice and black. There's another one here, probably fast forward or something. I'll be rewind, I mean, because it's the, yeah, it must be rewind. It's the only time you'd have anything running the supply reel. Get rid of some of this dust while I'm at it. Yeah, splits everywhere in that idler. I probably could do a new grease, but I guess while I'm at it, yeah, how on earth did you clean one of these tape decks? Now that would have been fun, because you can't see a thing, and they're on a silly angle, yeah, and it's rather filthy, probably as a result of no one ever cleaning it. That's quite a bit of muck for a tape head. The erase isn't much better. And the pinch roller, but ironically the capstan's quite clean. I guess I should have really pulled that capstan out and lubricated it. Would have been a good idea while I had the chance. But yeah, I don't think this thing's ever going to be a full goer again. I certainly aren't going to use it, even if it is. It's more just a learning experience, I think. That's actually sliding back a bit on its own now. Not enough to let the switch off, but at least that's moving back. I don't think it was moving at all before. Makes me wonder if that thing is meant to be... It is. It must just be the spring on that. That's the only thing. It does pull this bit back. Even that's a little slow. What's... I mean, it's got a little shaft here. I wonder if that's covered in horrible grease, probably. All it takes is a bit of sticky grease in the wrong spot. I think that actually did make it a bit better, getting rid of that grease off there. Yeah, it's back to some, I think it's actually brass. Where are we? Still doesn't come right back. At least it's a little better. That's probably a bit less resistance. Is that my imagination? Is that moving? Anyway, of course, with this thing here in place, yeah, I can push that out of the way and it doesn't come straight back. I need to get some lube under there, I think, because I can see some remains of grease. All I can do is try and lubricate it a bit and hope it improves it. Yeah, that's at least getting under there. There's that other bit where it needs it, where you can see the old grease. It's something like we've had some plastic on plastic action there, just not real good. So that it doesn't really slide against that much. It seems. That's ironic. There's a grease there, but where is that? No, there's definitely a gap after that. So which bits are causing the friction, I wonder? That's why this is almost tempting to lubricate the whole thing with a bit of oil or something. There must be a spring. Yet there isn't one. Now, could it be these black bits at the back here are causing friction? It'd be nice if I could get grease where I actually want it. Certainly possible. They're the sort of things that hold it in, so still doesn't come across. I'll lubricate that bit just in case that's something to do with it, but I don't think it is. Oh, so close. That is nearly where I want it now. Could tightening that spring up do something. We're so close. Just needs to move the tiniest bit more, like that. So it is possible this thing's tied up the other end or something, but because it's on another slidey bit there. What is that? That's actually a screw I can undo. Dare I do it though? I mean, maybe just listing that off.
see if it makes any difference to the mech. It just doesn't open that switch. It's almost all the way back now, but not fully there. It's definitely better than it was. It's like within a millimetre of where it needs to be. It's right on the verge of letting the switches come open, but doesn't quite. How annoying. It doesn't quite get there. Still doesn't open the switch. I guess one thing I could do is just make that switch open a bit earlier. Now there's an idea. Now that I'm within like half a millimetre or something, should I modify the switch ever so slightly? I think I'm going to cheat and do that. It's still alright. So we need to bend that one out a bit. Ooh, that might be a bit too much, I think. Oh no, that might just... That's closed. Now the mech doesn't lock. There we go. That was always, yeah, this was always funny with the locking bit, wasn't it? That might just work. I'll probably bend it a little bit too far compared to what it was. Yeah, that doesn't want to let go. The other one doesn't want to make. You can't win. Turned it back just ever so slightly. No, didn't do a thing. Gonna have a very wonky switch in a minute if I'm not careful. Yeah, that's a bit better maybe. Yeah, contact's a bit quicker. Assuming the contacts are good, well we know they're good because it was running all the time. So that's just going to be a compromise, because what else do I do with this thing? How did this fit? The wires suddenly aren't long enough. Oh, I've got to put those wires back down there. Well, I think that's enough to roughly get it going again. The idlers are nearly stuffed, or one of them, probably all of them. That mech doesn't fully return. We've got problems with the buttons not letting go or not engaging. That means there's other slide plate problems which would probably require pulling the whole thing to bits. So I think this is where the front ends, those are the bits on the back. That bit goes inside there. I can almost screw that back together anyway, I think, because do I need to have this apart anymore? That went on the front here somewhere, like so. I think I can get the the counter belt back on. Now I don't know what screws went where, but I think these are all just standard kind of screws. So here goes nothing. Hopefully nothing goes bang. When that stays down, it does run, and it has reasonable torque, not great. Got no fast forward by all of it. Maybe that's what's broken. That, oh, let's play, rewind, yeah, that idler's running, and yeah, not great torque, but it's there. Oh well, I'll get rid of that. Capstan goes. But we got play, so let's hook this thing up and see what happens, I guess. Eject. Oh yeah, the eject is working, so that's nice. So we definitely made some progress. How do I get the tape in there? It does go under there. It's springing back at me. This is, oh, you meant to put it in and up? Oh, what? Oh, I don't even know. Get it in place would help. Come on, play. Oh, here we go. A lot of wow. Tries to try and make the board move. Can't fast forward. What a shock. It's motor's stuffed anyway. Yeah, wow he has. Now that could be... Oh yeah, at least it's spitting it out now. How on earth? Well, we had a plastic... That front plastic bit, was it? Oh no, you got like a ramp, you slide it up. Wow. It's worth getting this going just to actually try it out and see how weird it is. Huh. I don't think I've ever used one. No, wrong button. I was going to test the pause. Yeah, pause works at least. Can we hit record? Oh yeah, let's try it. Don't think it locks in very well. Oh well, we're getting somewhere. Now I forget where I got to, but I think this thing was basically running. Besides, no, is that the fast forward? That's the fast forward. Capstan runs, but no rewind likes to flick off. Yeah, I don't think it's actually got an auto stop on that. And ejects. Oh yeah, whoa. Yeah, that ejects it. I did look these up in the Tandy catalogue, and they've got it in the 1977 catalogue. And I think these sort of 45-degree angled decks are basically just a transition from the old horizontal ones to the vertical ones. I mean, obviously they fit into a slightly thinner profile front, at least in those days where they seem to have bigger button assemblies and stuff. The later ones would fit into this sort of height. But I think that's all they were doing. By the look of it, it's just some sort of weird missing link between the two tape mounting methods. I just want to check whether I haven't got any... No, I don't seem to have any issues with the belt rubbing on anything. I guess I can put that counter belt back on as well while I'm at it. That's hanging in the breeze. Oh, what on earth is going on here? Did that have a twist in it? Why are there two of them? Two pulleys down there for some reason. I'm not sure which one it was actually on. Oh wait, it goes around. Oh, what on earth? Oh, so it goes around both of them. Ha! It's a direction change. Oh my god. I see what they've done here. We've got a bunch of pulleys. One down here somewhere. It comes up the back, or did. Uh-oh, it's come off now. That's not what I wanted. It looks like it must... It's got to get a twist in it. Now, how do I get that back down in there? That's going to be the fun bit. I've got to go down the back of those pulleys, I think. Horrible thing to work on, that's for sure. Get it over that. Oh, God, that really is... Just everything in this thing is like this. But this is how they did it in the 70s. I guess this was basically a new technology then. Although late 70s it must have been had cassette around for a little while, but probably just not. Took them quite a while to get compact cassette to actually sound any good, I think. Quite good enough for music at all. Because it is a kind of flawed... Hang on, how did I get over the other side there? Oh, this actually... Oh, there's a great big gap there, is there? Oh, I can go under this bracket. Now you tell me. Ah, now I'm caught on the microphone sockets or something, and it... Is it on the pulley? Yeah, you got to go on that pulley. I didn't realise there's a big gap at the end here, so it's not as hard to do as I thought. Get on those two pulleys, and then wrap around this other one, so it does a sort of... Well, it doesn't really twist around. It just bends. Quite an interesting design, and I think this old motor, well, it's been going since 1977. I'm not surprised it's a bit iffy. I probably don't know if it's worth pulling it to bits just quickly and seeing if we can do anything with it. probably should, like I say, should have done the capstan, but I don't think the capstan spins pretty nicely. Let's get the belt off, and hopefully I can get to all the screws. So I've got a red dot on the motor facing this way. Really, I think this motor probably wants to chuck it in the rubbish, but if there's just one you can't really get to, or can I go? I can go on an angle maybe through here. I was pretty sure you could unscrew this, but I thought I only had 2 screws. It's got 3, just to be a bit of a pain. That's one's going to be fun to get back on, no doubt. Oh, I've got some sort of washer stuck on there. Caps all over the motor, so it's like they expected the motor, but I like this, so you can actually unscrew it. It's been a while since I've seen a motor you can unscrew the case off. Guess there was not much reason for it, because usually you just replace them when they played up. Oops, that was a bit more extreme than I expected. Didn't feel like it was going to come, then it went suddenly, as they like to do. Still sounds a little dry. This foam stuff's stuck on here, I think. Ugh, yuck. That's a bit of a mess. I guess if we get the soldering iron going, I can probably pull the board off it. It's always interesting to see if you can fix these things, but yeah, that's sounding rather nasty still. I was hoping a bit of oil would fix it, but it usually doesn't. Oh my god, it's got a germanium transistor in it. Are you kidding me? That is old school. The electrodes aren't showing any sign of any failure. I doubt that. Oh, there's a silicon transistor and a germanium transistor. It's actually got 2 transistors in it. Well, I think the later ones had a single IC, did the same. I'm just wondering if we can pop this out without stuffing all the brushes up and stuff. Ooh, did that break or did it just clip in there? There should be a few of them, I guess. It's coming, I think. But there is a risk. Ooh, yeah, the brushes. Oh no, the brushes go the other way. Oh, that's nice. That doesn't sound too happy now, but that's because it can move around more than it should. This is the one I tried to undo the pulley on, and it didn't seem to want to know about it. But at least I can get oil into all of it now. I'll give that a proper soaking of oil. It's just, yeah, pulling onto the magnet, I think, is the main problem. I can put a bit of oil on the other bit there. And I guess I should probably clean those contacts a bit. Doubt it's causing any major problems, but while we're in here, because I'm not coming back again. Now maybe I should have marked where that went. I don't think it really matters. Oh, there is a little key. Oh, that's handy. Yeah, that key's got to go there, so I must have had it about in the right spot to start with. Start clipping them in. Oil everywhere. Oh yeah, I forgot I got oil all over the front of it, haven't I? Just clean a bit of the excess off. Definitely don't want that on the pulley. That's better, I think. Probably that internal bearing was as dry as... Yeah, I think that might... If you can get right down in them like that, it's surprising what you can do. Now, oh, that's still attached to the rest of it, isn't it? Now... Where I did stuff up is I didn't label this bit. I forget that you really need to label absolutely everything as you pull it to bits. It'll just go the wrong way, I guess. I don't think there's any real care for positive and negative, except that it will go the wrong way. I think we'll just change it from counterclockwise to clockwise if we... I think that's the only difference in them. If you ever want to change a motor, I guess that's something you could do, is pull it to bits. As far as getting this circuit board off, and in theory you should be able to change the direction by swapping that motor around, because they're a permanent magnet motor, DC motor, so changing polarity, it should change direction, so you could turn it counterclockwise if you had one into a clockwise, I would think. Now that goes on with, I guess the foam has to go up in there. And I've probably got it the wrong way around, no my luck. Problem is, I'm not even sure, does this tell you which way it goes? 6C2MC, not really. And no my luck, with a 50-50 chance of getting it right, I would have got it wrong, because that's usually what happens. There's usually a 100% chance of getting a 50-50 odds wrong. Well, that's certainly better. I better clean that pulley fully of any oil. And the red bit went that way, so yeah, that washer that didn't come off went to this screw. Let's try and start one of the others first, I think. Screw holes about there. Come on, where are you? That's it. It must be there somewhere there. Now can we get this little one in? This is going to be the fun one. Maybe I should leave it until... This thing really was not designed to be worked on. I would like to at least get it started. There we go. Only has to turn a couple of times really. Let's do it like we think it's going to work. Don't want side cutters. Not that confidence is any use in this. Okay, that should be together enough to test. I think the capstan's going in the right direction, so that's something. Yeah, we should be in business, I think. Hopefully with a bit less wow. Come on. I think that's substantially better. Could be wrong, but... Well, I think I'll risk putting the test tape in there. Whoa. That's the best place to hear it on a tone. Yeah, it's not too bad. Oh, volume's on this, isn't it? It's not perfect, but I'm pretty sure that's a damn sight better than it was. So that was well worth doing. That motor was definitely still iffy, and I think it's often that other bearing inside them is dry, so you can't lube that one from the outside. So I think that's about all I can do. Maybe put a lamp back in there. Is there any point? Probably not. We've got it running. Yeah, the mech's basically working again. The motor's turning off. It's ejecting, even though I had to do a bit of a dodgy on that switch. But you know, how much time do you waste? I could probably glue that piece back on there, couldn't I? It would at least look half decent with that back on there. Maybe I should clean this thing up a bit just to see what it comes up like. Even though I don't have much hope for it. It might still make a usable sort of display item. Like, you don't see these sideways cassette players or these 45-degree mounted things very often. I can't say I really am that interested in them, but especially if it looks like it is just purely for the reason of, I don't know what the reason is, but it was for some reason they didn't just jump from one design to another as far as horizontal and vertical mechanisms go. They seem to have done this halfway thing. I mean, the Tandy says something in the catalogue about you can see the cassette, which I guess is an advantage over a flat one, see where it is. But why not just go the full, I mean, in the same catalogue they've got like a mono cassette player, they've got the shoebox flat ones, horizontals, and they've got the standard, what we know as a mono boombox type upright one, even though it probably had exactly the same mechanism, just mounted in the case differently, or it's the old upside down one, so it's basically the same mech but used upside down. So I don't really understand the point of these ones, but I assume there's absolutely zero technical advantage in mounting them on this weird angle, and if anything it's a lot of hassle because it's more complicated. But I was going to throw that bit of button away, but I think I might glue that back on there. Don't know if I can do much about all the rust in those lights. I might put the light back in there because this could actually be quite an interesting example of this style of deck basically, and that's about all it's useful for. Do I just I was going to clean this some muck in there, quite a bit of it. Oh my god. And I guess we better clean this. Oh, I've got to fix the door's broken, isn't it? I might be able to pull a dodgy on that with a screw or something, see if I can fix the broken pin, because that's not much good like that. That's why I nearly didn't even bother with this thing. But then, like I say, I did kind of like Tandy stuff because it was a bit more interesting than the usual stuff in its own way, being an electronics store that I used to go to, and having all their catalogues. Well, I used to have them, then I got rid of them, and I've got a few of them back now. But that was always something as a kid. You used to look in all the catalogues and stuff, so there's a little bit of sentimental feeling for them. Not a lot, since they were expensive, but now this door's actually got a crack in it by the look of it. This thing really is a beaten up thing, so it's not going to make an awfully great display piece, but at least it exists. And I don't think I'd feel like paying more than the sort of $10 I paid for this one. One of these things, even if it was mint, to be honest. But I just managed to buy a pair of speakers that might go with this, so they might have some matching speakers just because they had white woofers in them, and I've always wanted some white Tandy woofered speakers. They're just kind of cool in their own way. And now I've got, they're only 8-inch ones, so nothing special, and they've got a passive drive, I think, in them. But they're certainly in those horrible 70s grills with the sort of crosshatch pattern like the old, whatever that style of windows was, with all the diamond bits of glass in it before they could make decent sheets of glass. It's sort of Tudor window style. Get out of the way. This really doesn't want to come off, does it? As it springs and muck in the way. If I can take this whole mech out the front, we'll see if we can patch it up. There's a spring that probably ideally should come off, but then how do you get it back on and all that? Yeah, I've got most of the dirt out of it, but not all of it. So yeah, that's one end of it, which is still good. This end, I assume a pin is broken off. Yeah, there's where it used to be. Oh, there's, yeah, I can't say where is it, but there's a bit of tape over it. I think there's the hole. So I'm thinking with a bit of a drill, now this bit's coming out completely now. Scratch the hell out of it where it's been loose, but that isn't going to matter. I don't think anyone will see that. But I'm thinking just a bit of a drill into it and put a screw or something in there. That's the sort of thing you had to do to fix them. If you try and glue the plastic, even if you had the original bit, which I don't think I do. Oh yeah, so that pin goes into this end. Oh, and the spring actually came off, that'd be right. Oh, that was the spring that was getting in my way. Do I have to take the screw out? I shouldn't have to. If it came out, it should go back in, shouldn't it? Come on. And that spring should go back over the top bit. Oh, that's it, is it? That's as far as that rubber thing hits. But yeah, nice big crack in there, which is not the best. Now I need to find, there's the original pin. I think I'll just drill that and go for it. I'll start with a very small drill. Like a 2.5mm or something, I don't know what that is. Maybe I should do it off the unit so I can be sure I'm drilling the right spot. That's got to be it, I think. Yeah, it certainly lines up correct. I can see the little break. I don't know. I think I'll take that spring back off after all that. Pull it out. Oh yeah, I see. That's actually broken off to the side there. Oh wait, what the? That's not it. What? Ah, yeah, broke. So what was in there? Must have been a pin in there. Yeah, either way, it doesn't really change anything, I guess, because I've got to drill. Yeah, it's actually broken the side out of this piece, and something's missing. There's just a hole there, so there must have been a pin originally in there. Now I need just a small plastic screw. Something like that. These are probably a bit too small. I don't know what these are out of. They probably belong in something I've got in pieces around here, but it's only my junk, so it's nothing important. Yeah, that's the kind of exact. They should self-tap themselves pretty well. I'm bound to find out later what that was for. Hopefully something I scrap, but I doubt it. Anyway, I'll find something else to fit whatever it was. Hopefully it should be just the right length, I think, to go through the plastic out of here. There's maybe a little hole. Oh, that didn't feel good. What just happened? It's like it just broke something, but I think it's just not long enough, is it? Try one of these longer, rusty looking screws. It was weird, it felt like a bit of plastic fell out, but I don't think it could have. Is that the hole? That's the hole. Oh yeah, it wasn't quite long enough. Oh, I don't know, that plastic is crunching a bit. I think it might have broke a bit of it off, but I don't know. Anyway, that problem is it going to be loose enough? Oh yeah, that's it. If I back off a bit, that pivot's fine. It does stick through a bit, which could, I don't think the tape goes there, so not sure that's the best thing ever, but I think it'll do. I was hoping that other one would have been just the right length, but it didn't really bite. I don't know if a little bit of the plastic broke off as it just bit in. And the cassette goes sort of up in, which way does it go? That way. Oh, it doesn't even slot into that bit, I don't think. Oh, it comes up here, that's right. Oh, it's way lower. Oh no, that's fine. Admittedly, someone could see that you've done the repair, probably if they looked hard, but I'm not sure a customer would be real happy with that repair, but then again, that's what else you're going to do with something this old. I guess you could maybe, no, I don't think you could do anything really. Maybe a daub of araldite or something, you could sort of reform the edge if you had the little pin bit. But I don't even have the pin bit, so it may well have dropped out of this unit somewhere. May have been floating around in there, but either way, that'll fix it. Okay, so that's back together. We've still got this random boards and stuff. I might just lift that up and see if I can start to reassemble this thing. Although the keys stick out, don't they? So that's gonna be a problem, I think. Now what is this? I can't remember where this other bracket came from. It's got a spring on it. Oh, that was the capstan, I think, wasn't it? So where I took that off? Yeah, I did. Oh, well, at least it's only the capstan, so that's nothing to worry about yet, I don't think. Oh, I've got to get this wire through for this meter. That probably wasn't ideal. Better to have it sort of sitting in place properly, I think. I did notice it was a bit loose and completely forgot about the bracket. I thought there should have been something holding it. But that was one of the first things I took off. That was a long time ago. Okay. Now, that volume control needed clean. I don't know that the radio, I think the radio is pretty clean besides, oh no, there's a piece of something, oh no, it's on the outside, is it? Is that damage or, not sure what that is. Oh, those two knobs, oh I better clean the knobs I guess. Two little knobs I've got to go back on the front. Because it's no good if it looks disgusting. That is corroded in, I think. That might need a polish, but hopefully we can flip these knobs upside down and then we don't have to care about seeing that. Yep, that's beautiful. Nothing like the old swap it upside down, put the good side up that has never seen the light of day before, and put the ugly side down where no one's ever going to see it again unless they pull it to bits. Yeah, that knob's not real great. That's probably going to need some polish anyway. I think both of them might. I'll tell you what, those cassette buttons look so much better. The door not being broken looks so much better. I've got to glue that bit of record button back on because that looks terrible. But at least it's not sticking out like it was before. Oh, that brown stain came off at least. This is not a very attractive unit really, admittedly, but cassette players mounted on 45 degrees. I guess you just got to grab them when you see them. There were a few of them around in the day, but you didn't see them very often, and they're all pretty ugly 70s sort of stuff. Although I guess that's a matter of taste. Some people probably love the 70s stuff. I don't think anything out of the 70s was particularly good, to be honest, but most of the furniture, cars and electronics was not particularly pretty. Or the home decor or any of it really. That should look quite a bit better, but yeah, shame about that crack in it. That really kills it. After double crack it goes up as well as across. So she's rough. Even the headphone sockets are full of muck. Oh, they're the mic ones anyway. But also the headphone one. Yuck. That is some mucky stuff. Power switch needs doing. I'll probably have to take all these other knobs off as well. Yeah, the end's missing off the tuning knob, so that's not going to ever look very good. I don't know what it had on it. The other ones will be a piece of brushed aluminium like the other ones, I would think. Yeah, the ends are pretty bad. Those brushed little aluminium bits had a habit of falling off all sorts of different amps because the glue went dry over time, especially always the 70s ones, I think. Well, the later ones had like a piece right over the whole knob. Maybe that's why they changed them, but they weren't just plastic, obvious plastic with a bit on the end. They were a complete cover. Still plastic on the inside usually. now I've got 2 more screws because I've got to, I might as well put a couple of them back, finish that, attaching that board. Then at least I know where some of the screws went, because I've got a few left. They're off the back cover. I've got 2 left out of the mech. Oh, that's that bracket. Where'd that bracket go? This thing. Hanging off the wiring harness here. Now where? Oh yeah, there's 1 screw on top there. And 2 still. Oh no, 1 screw there, so that's the 2 screws. That's where it went. Good thing the screws are there to remind me, because we don't want that short on anything. So it wasn't terrible to work on really, but pretty time consuming. More time consuming than I'd want to spend on it, but I guess something like this you don't really want to spend any time on it, in theory. But it looks like that 1976 motor, 77 motor is going again, good enough for now. It'll probably never get used again and dry out again, and by the time anyone tries to hook it up again, if anyone even bothers. I don't think this unit's going to arouse anyone's interest in this condition, but you never know. I guess the other thing, well, let's just power it up, make sure we're still... Oh, this said something about, yeah, they said something about 4 speaker system, because I noticed they said front speakers on there. Oh yeah, they are speakers there. Quattrovox speakers, so that's the RCAs, and that's these 3 terminals. So it does have rear speakers. Quattrovox. Not the proper quadraphonic, I guess, just some cheapo imitation of the same sort of thing, I guess, so people can't say, well, it doesn't have that feature. Oh yeah, volume needs a squirt. This has got actual real full-size pots in it, I think. Something you don't get in your boom boxes. Yeah, look at that. Can I really get contact cleaner in there? Well, we can try through these holes in the top. Always worth a try. I think that's a bit better. But yeah, wow, what a lousy little output stage. Are they even the big TO92 transistors? I think they might be the slightly larger ones. I forgot to look see what the rating was, but I'll put the thing up on the screen somewhere in this video. Probably 3 watts without ridiculous total harmonic distortion. I've really got to resolder some of this board too, especially that voltage regulator transistor and stuff. No, it's fine on this FM stereo. We'll find a better station.
Burger lunch on Fridays. What a bargain. We are even open for breakfast every weekend from 8 a.m. Enjoy access to our bottle shop 7 days a week from 10:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. For bookings, ring 6297 1052.
You're listening to the Tasmanian Connection on the show with Protes, and you heard Just Peer Up at the Sky from Dan Rawlins. And earlier tonight we had a couple of tracks from Dale Evans. We started off
Not particularly
It
loud.
was followed by Another Night Alone and Sneaking Around. We're going to hear now from a teenager from the New South.
But at least it doesn't distort at full volume. I was expecting it to be... Usually you get about 2/3, 3/4 out of them and then they distort, but at least they've made it so it doesn't distort. So at least get your full 10 out of your volume control, even if it's not much at all.
In the Matilda's gear or in other...
Broken up the things that he had complained about throughout the whole marriage. And
Oh,
we
that
did
one's a
try,
bit
you know,
scratchy.
as I say in the book, you know, there were some silver linings in listening to Esther Perel and looking at the role of...
Tone's a bit scratchy too, so I better clean them as well. I thought I'd just do the volume and see what she's like, but sounds a bit better with the tone turned up a little bit on the high side. It's a little dull sound, but that is AM radio, so you can't expect much from AM radio. Dull in sound and dull in content by the sound of it. Which is about all talkback radio is these days.
Which I inflicted upon myself. So not only did I beat myself up physically after discovering the messages on the telephone and left sort of quite a...
Beat yourself up physically. Bit of Fight Club going on there by the sound of it.
Way was visible proof of my discombobulation. I was sort of always quite proud of that. But the other...
Okay. Sounds like a niche sort of thing. Where's that radio station gone? Don't think we'll worry about the phono input. So what we've got to do, we've got to lift this door up. This is the bit I want to try, is what do you actually do with these things? I don't think I've ever actually used one. I probably have at one stage, but it's been so long. Then I assume we slide the tape up, push it down, so we've got to do it all by hand pretty much, and press play. And of course I can't fast forward it to get past that. And then, so what do we do? Shut the door. What happens if we hit stop eject? It just, at least it stops it flying out the front. That's got to be the weirdest thing in history. Oh, don't do that. I think that's just a bad bit of tape there. I hope so. Either there or it's chewing the hell out of it. Ah, the counter doesn't seem to be turning either. Come on, spit it out. You've got to press the stop eject a few times to get it to work, it seems. No, the counter belt's 7, I think. Or did I not put it on right? No, it's not even turning here. The other belt's shot. It just kind of slides down. They've actually got a piece to stop it falling right out. What a crazy design. So you like blindly, unless you're up high, shove it in, press it down. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, that is just weird. And basically not very good. Well, at least I've got one. Don't think that is Compact Cassette's most shining moment though. It just kind of randomly drops out in random positions. It's almost like a car cassette player but worse. And this thing's like in your way. There's hardly any room there. Is that really it? It does sort of slide itself home without any big issues. You just sort of push it upwards. At least the stop eject works if you don't go to any other mode. Maybe you got maybe it's on delay probably because the thing's not moving quick enough. Because we've got to let that little bar slide across. Yeah, still not. That really is a weird design and a pretty poor functioning design, to be honest. What did I say this was? 6 volt. Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan, but it's novel, I'll give them that much. Can't deny the novelty factor with this thing. But I should probably put a new, this brown stuff all over. What's it got written on it? 152H. Probably should put a new lamp in it. 6 volt. That's the one from Wagner, 465, AXL 465. At least they're still available, these things. Again, I don't think an LED is really going to do the job. Now, do I bother to suck all the solder out of there? I probably should. One of them, it did come out. Or do I just try and poke it through? I don't know. Needs a clean, I think. Don't move on me. Man, that is a big hole. Seems a bit unnecessary. I thought there was a lot of solder there. Actually, I can just screw that back in place, I think, rather than trying to work on these wires wobbling around all over the place. Yeah, where did I put that bit of loose solder? God, I hope that's not going to drip down inside there. You better be quick with it, I think. And don't even really need to cut them off, but might as well. Oh yeah, that's lit up. Doesn't do an awful lot, but there's some light in there. Oh yeah, we've got to wait a bit or do it a few times. Let's have a look at the front of it. I'll have to get a better shot of that, but you can see it's lit up in there a bit. You can see it's sort of lit up in there. Not ideal, but it doesn't look too bad lit up. Okay, let's try the record on this thing because I haven't tried that out. Go to radio. Record levels are one's too high and one's too low, I think. That one at maximum isn't doing a lot. Well, record light's on, so I assume we're doing something. It's there. Bit scratchy, so those pots probably need to clean as well. Nobody's shocked by that, I guess. I think we can just go straight through the front panel. But yeah, one does seem to be a bit low, which is weird. Normally the record VU meter will be working fine, it just doesn't work on the tape so well. And I really think you're going to see, shouldn't there be a mirror hanging down or something? Let's see with the light on, can you really see the tape? Oh god, do you reckon you're going to see that from across the room or something? Maybe the old school tapes, these clear ones probably aren't the best. I think we need an old tape with just a little window in it. Someone's got to have, yeah, one of these old tapes. Let's try that. Because of course this is the 70s we're talking about. I don't think you can see jack diddly of that. Maybe just a little bit of wow there, I think. Maybe it's returned a bit because that tape shouldn't, unless that actual tape shot. 7HT record bar. Can't remember they were last in business. Test tape. I hope the wow hasn't returned. Maybe when I put that capstan back together. Don't think it was as terrible as it was, but yeah, it still looks like it's pretty bad still. Worse than I thought probably, but it didn't sound too bad on that other music, but definitely a bit of it there though. Well that's fun. And I think that's it. I've tested everything, haven't I? I haven't tested that rear channel. I was going to quickly resolder a few joints. I don't think I'll bother doing everything, but power's definitely off. Where is that transistor? Right there. That is getting close. And what's that? I don't know. Something connected to it, I guess. Oh yeah, those little resistors or whatever they are. might as well go over a few things. I think that's the main area that seems to be dodgy. Yeah, I thought there was a bit more than that I noticed, but I think the amp stage is pretty good. I wonder what they wired those other speakers into. Oh, you're kidding me. I think they're just wired to the other ones. Yeah, it can't be serious. Well, there's that, looks like an earth straight across. Got a white wire from one channel out to that one, and what's the other one hooked to? This red wire, is it? Yeah, they're just hooked in parallel with the other speakers. So, a complete joke, basically. Oh, hang on. Oh, they also know they're definitely the normal outputs. So that would be the outputs from your amplifier, and then they're just wired across. That's our FM antenna by the look of it. Oh, that's what that little one on the back goes to. They've actually wired one around the power cord, wrapped it round like in a clock radio or something. So at least it's got something. That's probably why I wasn't getting very good reception. I probably need to disconnect that one. But I think that's about it. Other than recording a bit, if I haven't lost that part of the record button, we'll glue that back on. And this thing's basically done. I'll put the covers back on and we'll have a look at it in going condition, or semi-going condition. I did actually forget to check the fast forward in this thing. I was going to have a quick look at that. Funny thing is, when I just put the last screws, grabbed the last screws to put in the back panel, I found the other half of what I think must be that lever that was broken. Where's it broken off there? So I don't know how that thing ever held together with that spring on it. But that's where the little other end of the spring would have gone in, so it was definitely, whether that was part of the fast forward issue or something else, I don't know, but that's the bit. Nothing I could have done to repair that. I mean, yeah, maybe not nothing, but yeah, if it's got a spring on it, I don't think you're gonna do much with any amount of glue or anything to fix that. But that must have fallen out at some point. I never even saw it, but it was there with the screws, so it probably just dropped out on the bench at some point and got pushed across with them. And I think that's about it. We can have a bit of a look at this thing lit up. And yeah, you really can't see much of the tape in there. It's kind of pointless. They're like saying in the catalogue that, oh, you can see where you are in the tape, but if anyone can really see much of that tape, might come up better on the camera than it does to the eye, but looking at any sort of distance, you can sort of make out there's a tape in there, but not really with those clear ones. Even with the one that isn't clear, maybe the original light was a bit brighter than that one. That axial does seem a little dim. So maybe with a brighter light you could see a bit more, so I guess that is possible. I should give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe that light was a brighter, higher wattage one. And I'll just glue the piece back on there. And that's about it for this one. I did get a scan of the circuit and it looks like you can blow it up and it should look half reasonable. I might stick that on the back end of the video or something. And I guess I should check if like the Radio Museum have this one on there. I'm sure they'd have this model, but whether they got the circuit for it, I probably should upload it to them if they don't. But anyway, thanks for watching.